This video came from YouTube.
It's trending on Twitter.
Why is it not on the news?
The lion will lie down with the lamb.
Come on! I'm starting the show here. We're rolling.
Yes, we are rolling. Welcome to Unbiased and on the Fence. I am Shane, and I want to thank each and every one of you guys for joining me this evening. This is sort of a recap video. Now I know, I've gotten thousands of subscribers since a couple of videos that are buried so deep at this point that it's pretty much impossible that you're going to stumble across them, because I've done over 200 videos now. And it's sort of what started me off on this whole journey, because it dives into the QHHT work of Dolores Cannon, which I know a lot of people in the Mandela Effect community are aware of Dolores Cannon's work. It's wonderful work, and it's the same practice that Allison Coe uses in Suzanne Spooner, and also another video that dealt with the Law of One. Now, the reason I just coincidentally, if you want to call it that, came across this information in the very beginning when I was really trying to dive in deep about what this whole Mandela effect was all about. And I don't believe in coincidences. So this information really, for the most part, predated the Mandela effect phenomenon. And I think it was early, like 81, that the Law of One came out. And I wanted to clear up too, they use the terminology of harvest like Jesus did. He used the terminology of harvest. So since then, of course, there's always disinfo going around that now harvest is about, what the darkies are doing right now with harvesting our energies and things like that, trying to keep us resonating in fear and stuff. This is not the same harvest. This is not there's warnings out about spaceships are going to come and they're going to try to trick people into getting them to come aboard so they can take them and harvest them. So this is not that harvest. This is not the negative. This is the harvest Jesus spoke of when he talked about separating the wheat from the tares. So when I use that terminology, it's just because the Law of One used that terminology. You can dive into the Law of One material. I got the link below. You can, if you start at the very beginning, Ra clears up some of the misconceptions about how he was given. It's the same Ra from ancient Egypt, and he's been given sort of a status of being a god and the sun god that's wanting to be worshipped, and he makes it very clear in the Law of One material that was once again humans changing the information to give them a bad name and sort of muddy the waters. So you can look in all of that information. Ra considers themselves a social memory complex that is more like our brothers. Just like Jesus, he's been, put on a pedestal to be like something we can't achieve, even though Jesus said we would do things he did and greater. And all of this is to disempower us, to make us think that we don't have the power to change our reality. And that's really what this video is all about, because early on in my journey, I came across this information that said that we're going to bring about the event. We're going to, and I even got this visual earlier today when I'm thinking about this whole thing. And I saw the event as this big stage, this big platform that we're on, and there's this cosmic dance, or a tug of war, if you will. Now you can imagine all of us that are awakening to all of this stuff are on one end of the rope of this tug of war, and some of us get down sometimes and we're not pulling our weight, and then which gets into what we were talking about last night about not, getting weak and saying, oh, I'm tired, things aren't changing. And then you're telling other people that are pulling on the rope, yeah, things aren't changing. And then, it can cause this effect. And that's sort of the danger with adding a date to it too. Because think of this, if we were told it's going to happen in March, but it's really going to happen April 1st, April 1st rolls around and we're all like, oh, it didn't happen. Then we let go of the rope, so to speak. And when it was going to happen April 1st, we actually can push the time even further, because we all stopped pulling on the rope just when it was about to occur. So we're doing this collectively as light workers, and so we want to not really put a date on this, but know that it could happen at any time. We can shift at any time. It's already been happening, and it's like we're trying to reach this this tipping point where things really go real well. And the event, if you can imagine us doing this tug of war, the event is sort of like the stage. The stage is going to tilt, but we still have to do our pulling to bring it about. So I wanted to bring up these two videos. Like I said, they're like about a year old, or getting close to a year old at this point. The first one comes from the Law of One, and this will answer pretty much the questions that you may have if you're just coming into the Mandela Effect and you're like, what's this all about? I believe it's a trigger. It's a positive thing. It's because people are being triggered by it. They're realizing that, hey, life isn't what I thought, and it's really become a good thing. So let me get right to this video here, because I got two videos to play, and I want to keep this at about an hour if I can, for people watching later on. Let's see here. Oh, let me do some shout outs really quick while my computer is trying to catch up, because I don't want it to glitch when I start playing this video right here. Ooh, stream health is weak. If this doesn't come out right, I will probably just do this in the post and repost it again, because I think the message is really important. But I want to thank all the mods for keeping things under wrap in there. We got 44 people. So, oh, Jim, I'm a puddle duck. Thank you so much for staying up with us. And Jose, of course, the leader of the mod squad. Biker Babe, I'm so glad you made it in here. Jenny Indigo on fire, so glad you made it in here. Charles, love you, man. I'm so glad you're here. Holly G, welcome. My Skies 5D, another YouTuber. Jane, thanks for being here. Sharktacon, thanks for being here. Buster, Alex, Love a Pet. I want to make sure I don't. Oh, Iwa, so glad you made it. Lots of people here. If you hear my grandson giggling in the background, he's over here, so just realize how cute he must be. He is adorable. Meditation Man, good to see you here. Aaron Klein, always good to see you here, brother. Kelly, Reality Check, Lilith, Buster. Let's see. Michael, thanks for being here. Alith, and Angie. Thank you all so much for being here. I'm going to get right started for people watching this later. I don't want them to not watch this information, because it really is phenomenal. So the first thing I want to play is this video. And if you want to go back and watch the originals, the links are below. So you can do that. But like I said, it's so buried that I know that nobody would typically find it. So here's the one about the Law of One and Wanderers, which I believe we all are. If you're not familiar with the Law of One, you can go to the site thelawofone.info, and you can read through all of the different sessions. I won't get into all that, because I think a lot of people already are aware of it, and if you're not, you can read about it. But I wanted to read about the Wanderers, because I find this is really interesting. Now, the planet is going through a shift, and that's what the Mandela Effect's all about. Many people are being triggered right now. But in these Law of One sessions, they talk about wanderers. And I believe I'm one, along with millions of other humans on the planet that are waiting to help raise the planet's vibration. So if you've always had a difficult time understanding the world as it relates to selfishness and bullying and inequality, and maybe you just never really quite fit in, you're probably a wanderer and didn't even know it. Now, that doesn't mean we're better than anybody, but we're more like experienced big brothers and sisters coming to help our little brothers and sisters graduate, or become harvestable, I should say, as the planet is moving into this whole period of harvest. So the Law of One sessions go by question and answer format. Questioner says, thank you. Well, you spoke of wanderers. Who are wanderers? Where do they come from? I am Ra. Imagine, if you will, the sands of your shores, as countless as the grains of sand are the sources of intelligent infinity. When a social memory complex has achieved its complete understanding of its desire, It may conclude that its desire is to service to others with a distortion towards reaching their hand, figuratively, to any entities who call for aid. These entities, whom you may call the brothers and sisters of sorrow, move towards this calling of sorrow. These entities are from all reaches of the infinite creation and are bound together by the desire to serve in this distortion, meaning our reality, our matrix we're in right now. They call it a distortion. Question, how many of them are incarnate on Earth now? This came out in 1981, just so you know. I am Ra. The number is approximate due to a heavy influx of those birthed at this time due to an intensive need to lighten the planetary vibration and thus aid in harvest. The number approaches 65 million. Questioner, are most of these from the fourth density? We're in the third density, by the way. What density do they come from? Oh, also, by the way, this is a little background. Jesus was going back. He was about to go into fifth density and decided to come back to third density to help us out. So just a little background. That's also in this information. And like I said, if you can come to this website and read all about it. But they're asking about the density of those here now. I am Ra. I am Ra. Few there are of fourth density. The largest number of wanderers, as you call them, are the sixth density. The desire to serve must be distorted towards a great deal of purity of mind and what you may call foolhardiness or bravery, depending upon your distortion complex judgment. The danger of the wanderer is that it will forget its mission, become karmically involved, and thus be swept into the maelstrom from which it had incarnated to aid the destruction. So that's basically saying that the danger here is that people, these wanderers, will incarnate here, forget about their roles, and actually help the negative side out. And I think a lot of people have fallen into that, and that's one of the reasons we see this whole Mandela effect occurring. So the question, what could one of these entities do to become karmically involved? Could you give us an example? An entity which acts in a consciously unloving manner in action with other beings can become karmically involved. And then here's another indication of the wanderers. The questioner says, I just had a thought. Do any of these wanderers have physical elements in this earth situation? And check this out. I am Ra. Due to the extreme variance between the vibratory distortions of third density and those of the more dense densities, if you will, wanderers have, as a general rule, some form of handicap, difficulty, or feeling of alienation which is severe. The most common of these difficulties are alienation, the reaction against the planetary vibration of personality disorders, as you would call them, and the body complex ailments indicating difficulty in adjustment to the planetary vibrations, such as allergies, as you call them. Let's see. Okay, so you can go on and read more of this if you want. It's under the 12. I actually clicked on the category of wanderers on the main page here, if you want to read more of that. But I kind of thought that was funny because I had the alienation thing going myself, and so it was pretty neat to hear that. And then I had also had allergies growing up, hay fever. The other thing, this goes along with the law of one. I'll also leave this link in the description. They have there's biorhythms that go off the date you're born. So you can go to this web address here that I'll leave linked below and put your birth date in, put the target date in, and you can span it out over. It just by default does 30 days. But here we are on the 23rd, and we've got all these categories here. The red is physical, the green is emotional, the blue is intelligence, and the purple is adeptness. So you can see I'm pegged right now in the adeptness. That's sort of your, your skill level or whatever. And it tells you, you know, if it's headed up or down. But I found this real interesting. And the funny thing is, on Father's Day, I should have been feeling great, you know, being with my kids and everything, but I just felt down. And when I came and looked at this, I couldn't believe that my emotional level was all the way down around Father's Day. How crazy is that? So, you know, I'm just showing you what I found here. You can basically decide how much of it you want to believe yourself, but I also found it kind of odd that right around the same time that this other calculator, now this doesn't go off your birth date, this is just the ninth wave calculator from the video I'm about to show you, and this is so neat. Right around here is where we were on Father's Day. So this is like sort of a day and a night, sort of a sine wave or whatever. I'll also leave this link below. It'll be in this video that I'm going to play you a little clip out of. Now you see the ninth wave started. This was the whole Mayan calendar thing. This guy here, Carl Johann Kalaman, he's done extensive research for decades on the Mayan calendar. He knew about the Mayan calendar before anybody else knew anything about it. And I saw that he didn't have many subscribers or views, and so a lot of people probably didn't see this. So when one of my subscribers pointed it out in one of the comments, I thought, oh, let me share this with you guys. So I'll just play a little piece of it, but you can see the date of was actually off a little bit, but it was actually more in line with the law of one, because in 81 they said it would be about 30 years before the shift started, and it started. Here it was almost exactly 30 years later. So this is all pointing to the same sort of information. You can see this vibration. At this point, the vibration really increases, this ninth wave final vibration. And here, let me play a little clip of this here.
But there are 9 waves of creation that have been sequentially activated. And the ninth of these waves is the one that was activated in 2011, and which allows human beings to download a mind of unity. In other words, the way it works is that the different frames of mind that people have had throughout history has come out of downloading holograms that are created through resonance with these different waves. And these different holograms are not the same. So that, you know, if you're in resonance with the 5th wave and the 6th wave, 7th wave and 8th wave, the holograms that you're downloading are different. And the holograms makes you perceive reality in different ways. They carry, if you like, different kind of filters to filtering out different aspects of reality. And as you filter out different aspects of reality, you start to perceive reality in different ways. You perceive reality in accordance with the filters that you have downloaded. And
now, doesn't that start to sound a lot like the Mandela Effect? Wow, this is really cool. I'm going to leave a link to this video as well. And for those that get impatient, you can actually go to speed and you know, go 1.5 times.
And in a second step, once you perceive reality in a special way.
Anyway, it goes a little bit faster that way. And that's pretty much the first video that came out, oh, I don't know, 10 months ago. In a Dolores Cannon book. This other one is really interesting because, like I was mentioning, Dolores Cannon, the QHHT founder, basically wrote a book called The 3 Waves of Volunteers in the New Earth. Now, this wouldn't have meant anything to me before the Mandela Effect. So I know a lot of people had already read this book, so they probably would have read right over this and not even, it didn't probably register if they didn't read it, even if they read it after the Mandela Effect, because of the wording here. You know, he doesn't say Mandela Effect, but he says making influence by making material changes in this dimensional reality, observable changes. And that to me sounds like the Mandela Effect. So this was one of the things I stumbled across right away after realizing the Mandela effect was happening, that really set me on the positive path to realize that this stuff is a good thing. This is like because of free will, they have to do these gentle nudges. You know, you have to be able to just deny the fact that it's happening if you don't want to believe it. And I think that's why we see some people see it, some people don't. And I feel like it's really meant for a select people to trigger them to realizing, hey, wake up! You were here to do something, and you're not doing it. So let me play this clip for you. This is a longer one. It's about a half hour. In a Dolores Cannon book, The Three Waves of Volunteers and the New Earth, that came out in 2011, there's a part I believe is talking about the Mandela effect. It says, speaking of these higher beings, it says they might influence by making material changes in this dimensional reality, observable changes. To me, that is describing the Mandela effect to a T. This is exactly what we see. And I want to back up here. I just wanted to sort of hook you in the beginning so I don't lose anybody, because I think this is very important information. And I'm just trying to do my best to get it out there, because I think a lot of people are going to hear this. A lot of people are going to relate to this Randy character here in the book. And it's probably going to be just as mind-blowing for you as it was for me, because it's really been emotional. I've been going over this material, and I'm like, oh, am I going to be able to deliver this without, seeming like a big baby or something? Because as this stuff gets revealed to me, I'm just in awe of the implications here, and I just really wanted to share it because I think it will resonate with you all. You can get this book. I got it on. I got an ebook version of it on Google Play from an Android phone, so you can just go on there and look up the book. And I want to say it was like $7 or something. It's a really good book, and it's referring to the wanderers that I talked about a few videos back, as it describes these. This is the volunteers it's speaking of, is the wanderers that's been brought here to Earth to help raise the vibration and bring about a new Earth. And if that resonated with you and you want to look a little bit more into that, this book is full of, I guess you would say, her clients that she hypnotized and the information she got for them. Typically, when she hypnotized people, they go into their past life and things like that. But all of a sudden, over the past few decades of her career, she passed away now, but she started increasingly getting more and more of these wanderers that would come to her, and once they were in trance, they would give this information of how they were really here for a higher purpose, like I mentioned in the Wanderers video. So I really wanted to share this excerpt that I believe discusses the Mandela effect and what they hope to accomplish by the Mandela effect, because if we see things changing but we don't realize why they're changing, or we believe some of the stories going around that it's the D wave or the quantum computer, that's why I believe it's disinformation. That's why I'm not on board with that, because I feel like, for me personally, the things they discuss in this book about awakening people, this has happened to me. My life is, I'm more alive and awake than ever before, and I don't want to attribute this positive change to some scientists at CERN or some people messing around with a D-wave computer. I just don't want to give them credit for it. Maybe I'm just being so optimistic about it in some of your minds, but it's just been such a revelation to me that, emotionally, I can't even hardly stand it as I'm like getting all this information. It's just been so mind-blowing to me as I'm beginning to see things differently. And so this little section I'm going to read is from chapter 23, and it's called The Best Agenda for Earth. The subject she hypnotized, now what she'll typically do is hypnotize somebody, and then they'll tell her what they're seeing, and then at some point she'll go to what she calls the SC. You'll see when we get to that part, and that's the super consciousness. Now the super consciousness is the same entity no matter who she hypnotizes. It could be somebody on one side of the earth and they continue a conversation with the next client on the other side of the earth. That's why when you look into this, it's so unbelievably mind-blowing that it just couldn't be faked unless she's lying. But the information, it was such a confirmation to me that, and then it goes right along with the information I found in the Law of One. So yeah, all this stuff is being revealed right now for a reason. I think, it's what Daniel talked about. People will go to and fro and knowledge will increase. I believe this is all about that knowledge increasing. And if I know some of my Christian friends, I had some people left comments that said, this channel's gotten pretty weird or whatever. But, if you seek and you find, you've got to allow the Holy Spirit to give you discernment about the information you're getting, because if it's way different than what you've been taught, you don't want to throw it out. That doesn't mean it's bad. My message has always been a message of love and compassion. And I just, if you really feel like maybe the devil is trying to sneak in on a message of love and compassion, maybe just pray and ask the Holy Spirit to give you some confirmations, and, at least intend to know the truth. Because you don't want to throw out this information because it's weird, because isn't life getting weird? I mean, the Mandela Effect, that's weird as weird gets for me, That's why it was such a wake-up call for me. But to the material here. Now, Randy worked at home with his computer. He was highly involved with metaphysics and was using that to search for meaning in his life. He was married with children, yet was frustrated because he felt there was something he was supposed to be doing to help the earth. This was the main reason for the session, to help discover why he was here. Now I'm going to jump over a few pages because that kind of gives you a look into why he's here. The R, when you see the R here as you're reading along with me, that's for Randy. And that's what he's actually hypnotized in trance and he's speaking. But it's his higher self speaking, and then at some point it becomes the super consciousness that I spoke of earlier, and that will also be under the R. The D is talking about Dolores asking the questions while he's being hypnotized, just to kind of help you follow along a little bit better, and I don't have to keep saying RD, RD over and over. So, Randy starts, they are like two different factions. They're talking about some sort of negotiation. Do you mean like two different countries? No, they're two opposing views or ideas. It has something to do with the earth. They both want the evolution of the earth to happen. They have input on ideas on the best way for that to come about. One group wants a direct influence, and the other group wants a less direct influence. It's the two different perspectives, the two different ideas, whether it's a direct influence or an indirect influence. Each one could have different results, couldn't they? Yes. You said they both agree on the evolution of Earth? Right. That's their common goal. What do they see as evolution of the Earth? The evolution of human consciousness. Snap them out of the cycle they're in. So one group would like a radical, I don't mean radical in a negative sense, a more direct approach, and the other group would be more like a more subtle approach. But they both agree that it's time for the Earth consciousness to evolve? Yes. And also, they're in agreement that they want to work together. They don't want to have the separate factions. They don't want to have two opposing models. That's part of what they're talking about, just trying to see each other's perspectives so they can come up with a united goal. Do you know if anybody has told them to do this? No. It seems that they are at a higher level of consciousness where they can see each other's thoughts. I then asked him how he perceived his body. I wondered if he was one of them. Well, at this point in time, I am just pure consciousness, just observing. As pure consciousness, you can pick up on their thoughts? Exactly. Have they been involved with helping the people of Earth before? Yes, they've always been here. So this is not a new faction that has come in. No. If they have always been here, what part have they been involved in? Subtle influences. They're held on multiple different planes. So in one sense, just their presence, their frequency. What has the presence and frequency accomplished? I guess you could say it's brought light. I already see the correlation. As he started to explain, he suddenly became very emotional. He was trying to cry, but was attempting to hold back. Why does it make you emotional? Randy was still trying to gain control of himself. Sort of like being a parent, trying to provide a healthy, happy environment. It becomes a sense of responsibility. So what does that have to do with why you're here? So I can go back and I look at these beings that are here. They operate on multiple dimensions. On one dimension, they have ships. They have physical forms manifested. They have the ability to influence other beings and their intentions and operate on that dimension, as they can have an influence with just their mere presence. This will limit the amount of other beings that can come here and influence. So although they don't engage in anything, their presence is known, and on a higher dimension or a different dimension. The frequency of their consciousness, their intent, also helps create protection around the earth. It's not an encasement. There's still absolute free will, free flow, but there's an energy that is additive. It would be going against their free will if they influence the consciousness. Is that right? Yes, but they're not. They are simply providing a frequency and an energy. So that's why I am saying it's like a light, a holy light. So they have the best intentions? Absolutely. But you said there are other beings that wouldn't have the highest intentions. Yes, on multiple different levels. That's where the friction is, the two different perspectives. There is a faction that wants to more directly influence, so in a broad sense, that could mean they are here by interfering with the other group. That's one level. And they might influence by making material changes in this dimensional reality, observable changes. One faction thinks it would be more beneficial, and the other group is more passive. They're still not sure. So it's still in the open on which way the earth should go. It's not how the earth should go. It's just a matter of intervention, or maybe not intervention. It's the matter of getting back to the parenting thing. When do you guide, or how do you guide, and not interfere or intervene? So that's the fine line between interfering and intervention, or something like that. They just aren't sure if the intervention, they're interfering, or whatever other direct action the other group is considering is without consequence. Is there anyone that advises them? There appears to be a collective. It sounds like they do want the earth to evolve, like it's something that it's supposed to happen. Oh yes, that's clear. Does this mean they want them to evolve positively and away from negativity? I'm not sure they see it that way. I think they see it as evolving to be aware of their free will and free choice. So I guess the one group that wants direct action is a little impatient. Laugh. That's my interpretation. They think it's taking too long and that a few of their actions can be quickened. But again, the group that is more of the observer or the less direct influence respect the level of consciousness here, And there's a bit of a catch-22. And it's as if both consciousness isn't aware of free will, and it doesn't know that it has a choice, and it's difficult for it to move forward. So how do we introduce that there's the possibility of free will without affecting their free will? In other words, if they do not naturally evolve to the state of awareness where they recognize free will, then that could be potentially like it never happened. So it has to happen within their collective consciousness through evolution. Or as the one group suggests, it could be more rapid by influence. And the influence could simply be by introduction to new ideas and new concepts and belief systems. It doesn't have to be by physical contact or interaction necessarily. Then they can introduce new ideas into the collective consciousness of the human race? Yes, but it's already there. It's how to get people to look at it, how to get people to be aware of it. Right now, people are just looking at their feet. They can't see anything but their toes, yet all of the universe's knowledge and gifts are right there. They don't seem to know. They don't have any of the tools at a conscious level of how to get that information. They probably don't even know it exists. Right. There's another aspect of intervention or whatever, and that is how to use that ability. It's a skill. Well, it in itself is just an idea. How do you get them to stretch their awareness? Do they have any idea how this can be accomplished? There are also different ideas within that group. The boldest one would be for them to make their appearance known, but that seems like it would create a huge positive and negative event. The people that are ready would easily recognize it, and the people that are not ready would be easily susceptible to their fear and uncertainty and doubt, and would run in the opposite direction. So it would be extremely beneficial to some, but it could be potentially disastrous. Not disastrous in a global sense, but not helpful. That's one of the items that are on the table. What are some of the others? To contact a select few people that are ready and to work with them to come up with an idea. Should this be physical contact? Yes. In a way that wouldn't frighten the person? Right. That's the crux of the matter. That is one of the things that is on the table. It's a really sticky situation. You introduce yourself to them, then suggest potentials, and then they get a few people to solidify the potential. Let it become very intense. Then you know you would not be infringing upon free will, and then the plan would be to make that a larger intent to introduce more people to the idea. So maybe that's the healing person that creates the ideas that spread it around so that it instills a human consciousness-based evolution. That way it's not going against free will? Correct. The trick is to get other people to listen. That would be the human being's responsibility or task. So the thing would be to get momentum, inertia, to get critical mass, and the critical mass can adjust the seeds of collective consciousness. Is it on their agenda to contact governments? No. There are many other ideas there. That doesn't seem to be a predominant one. It would be individuals that are ready. Are there any other ideas on the table? The last one we talked about seems to be the most probable idea or solution if it goes in that direction. So the other direction is the most passive direction, where they see that it would unfold naturally at some point in time, which would take longer. Well, if they contact these people, what type of information are they going to give them or share with them? I think it's based on the individual. There is no ability to share minds, so they know what the people they are going to contact are interested in, or interested seems to be the best word, know what their inclination is. And they would work with that person based on what the individual's niche or individual interests are. To start with, there would be an individual message to each person. Would the person be able to accept having contact with something that is definitely not human? The people that they contact wouldn't have a problem because they can see the mind of the people. Over the last many years, people have been seeing the craft, the ships in the air, and more people are talking about having contact. I think this is a different group. This is a group that has never been seen. This is a different group altogether. This is a group that has not intervened, has not interfered. They've always been the observers. They have always simply been present here. They are going to be more direct in the future. Right now, they are not doing anything. I was thinking how difficult their mission has been to be an observer all this time and suddenly change. Right. But they think this could be the best idea? A faction does, yes. How would they appear to people? However that person would best accept them. The beings that I'm looking at have multiple simultaneous potentials. They can be in whatever dimension they require, so they can be in a physical form shape, or they can be ether, so they could influence multiple levels of reality concurrently, so they would appear in the most acceptable form. What is their normal appearance? That's the interesting thing. It's parallel. They can be etheric or they can simply be physical, and they can be both at the same time. So they do not have a normal physical form? Yes, no. I guess you could say the lower frequency form is a projection of their higher consciousness, but somehow it's totally symbiotic. You are seeing these beings wearing suits to adapt to the environment, so I thought they had some kind of physical form inside that. That was the interesting thing. Maybe that was just for the contact, because yes, they do have physical form. I'm not exactly sure of what the frequency, the form is, but that seems to be flexible as well. They were on Earth to have this meeting, which may be only for my benefit. Does this explain why you're here on Earth? So why am I here? I saw the parallel between their intention and my intention. Laugh. I appear to be a little more in it. It's to be here, to be alive, to hold frequency, to hold the good, and to allow it to be accessible. Whether the people know it's there or not. Becoming emotional again. And it goes back to my frustrations about whether to intervene or interfere, or whether to have a more direct influence. And what do you think your job is? My job in this state of awareness, or my job in human form? Whichever, you can talk about both. It looks like it's to individually observe. I feel it's as above as below. It would be to observe. It's difficult to be a dispassionate observer. I think part of the challenges is to be the observer and only the observer with a particular perspective. At some level, whatever transpires is appropriate, and I feel like there is a right and a wrong, or a good and a bad, or a light and a dark, or a better influence or a negative influence, and I choose to act there or make a difference or intervene or interfere. When I'm operating at that level, then am I the cure or part of the problem? And again, that would take another level of looking at it. So I guess I'm not sure how to play. What part are you supposed to play in the game? I see if I influence, then I'm only influencing from the state of awareness that I'm holding in that particular place. But if I do nothing and only observe, that seems like a more natural state for me. That's why I feel alone there. This was certainly a puzzle, and although we had received some information, I knew there was more that we would not be able to find out this way. So I had him drift away from the scene, and I called forth the SC. I asked why Randy was shown that scene when he could have been shown anything, especially when we were intending to find past lives. It was the most logical analogy. Why did you want Randy to see it? To put it into perspective, the reason for being in physical form. Explain it to him. That's one of the things he wanted to know. There are multiple levels of enfolded reality experiencing this broader creation, and I don't see a task per se in a physical form for him at this time. He has free will and doesn't know what to do with it. That's part of the way forward aspect, because what is the next level once you recognize you have free will? What do you do with it? And he's on the leading edge of that. When he figures that out, laugh, then it will be additive to the evolution of consciousness. Can you give him any hints to figure it out? That's why we were laughing, because that's the toil of us ever trying the intervention versus interference versus evolution. Randy had taken many metaphysical classes and had explored many different avenues and modalities. The SC did not think that was important. The simplest is just to express his free will. All he has to do is express it. That's the only thing left. There is no more knowledge, no more insight that is required. There is simply to get to a point of self-awareness. So I guess that is the self-exploration, trying to figure out what to do with the free will. Now that he understands free will and believes in free will and sees free will, now he needs to set his intention of how to express that free will. This is going to happen on the planet, and everybody, once they understand free will, are going to run into this same situation. So we have free will, we recognize it now. We can choose this, we can choose that, but again, they need to set intention in order to manifest reality. So simply knowing that they have the ability to choose free will, or to choose right or wrong, left to right, up and down, has to be manifested in order to have the experience, to have the knowledge, to have the wisdom to make the evolution. If we are to see the concept of an idea, it wouldn't be evolution at its freest form. So he has to find it out for himself. That's part of the discovery process, yes. Is he concluding his cycle? Yes, correct. So if he has completed all his studies, this should be the last one on Earth. There are really no studies. There were no requirements. There was no traditional process there. I was thinking of similar to a school. Well, certainly there is something to be learned anywhere and everywhere. You have an opportunity to have an experience. The reason for this experience is to know. Experience free will from multiple levels. The beings that traditionally incarnate here are moving up higher in awareness as well, and their reincarnation process is going to be shifting quite dramatically. And part of our incarnation manifestation at multiple levels in parallel is to assist in these levels in the parallel. How is the reincarnation patterning going to change? There are belief systems that exist on the dimension of reality that are also fabricated by levels of consciousness within that reality, which are self-limiting. And just like on Earth, the evolution of consciousness to become aware of something broader is also transpiring at the next level of consciousness. But there are still some people that have to keep coming back, reincarnating, aren't there? Yes and no. Impossibly. The people that believe they have to reincarnate, that are not willing to open themselves up to opportunities, can continue to perpetuate this reality indefinitely. The beings that allow themselves to be more receptive to other ideas and beliefs will have an opportunity to explore other options and move into different realities. Then there are the beings that have been waiting for this to happen for a very long time. So the people, the beings that have been waiting for this to happen, You can say they are some of the masters that still exist around this planet and have stayed here to assist, to offer their support, their skills, their knowledge, their wisdom, their influences. They know there's something more and they can move on. So is everything changing? Absolutely, everything is changing. He's saying he's looking for the truth. And what is truth anyway? The truth, from the broadest perspective, is everything, and it is incomprehensible. You either see the broadest picture or you're looking at the very smallest details. So the truth, to answer the question, there is nothing that is incongruity, but his thoughts and his beliefs and his ideas, that there are no untruths, in other words. He's done all the work, he has the knowledge, he has the experience, he has the wisdom, he just needs to choose what to do with it. If he structures his intentions, there are no limitations. He has unlimited potential. This is what is going to happen on the earth plane. Its consciousness is going to awaken to its potential. And it will still not manifest its academic worth, its intellect. There has to be intention and inertia and motivation and direction and a solidification of that knowledge before it becomes real in that reality. And very few have been able to do that, and that's part of his job. Sounds complicated. Laugh. It is as simple as flipping the switch. Does he flip the switch or do you? He does. We've never interfered. Let's rephrase the statement. Let's hold it in its context as a reference point. Here he is with the ability to create anything. He has the belief system that will enable him to manifest his intentions and desires, to support his intentions and desires. There is no conflict between his belief system and the ability to manifest. The crux of the matter is, although he believes he has the ability, which he does, he has not put into motion that ability. So we say it's a switch, but it is a switch of intention. It's not a switch in any other term or way, but it's simply accepting yourself as who you perceive yourself to be. And it's not any intention of whether in a broader human collective consciousness term, you could say, who do you want to be today? And defining that, then manifesting will follow. I'm having a very difficult time describing it, but when he gets to a point of merging oneself, a point of integrating oneself, the point where he no longer sees himself as a separate aspect, when he gets to that point, he will simply be. And when he becomes that point, then he will make an impact here. And so he does have free will. And it's not predetermined or predestined, but when he does reach that point, he will demonstrate himself. We're at a point where he has to make a decision to move forward. He has to make a decision to set his intention and to define his intention and to create his own reality. And create our own reality we must. And I believe this is really a message for all of us. That's why I wanted to bring this back up again, because like I said, it got buried with all these other videos, and I think we're still looking at the same situation here, where we have this free will and we need to set our intentions, but so many worldviews tell us that we're just waiting, and so many things are getting us to wait instead of put our intention into action. And I think that's really what's left to do here. So this event that's coming, I believe we can use as a sort of a power up, if you will, in gamer terms, to help increase our intention that we're already putting forward. But it's not a sit back and wait for the flash event as much as it is, set our intentions for this new world. That's, so many people are getting, tired of waiting and stuff, but think of what's happened already. Think of the Mandela effect, you guys. Think of how reality has already began changing all around us. We've got, and it's still happening. We've got rainbow mountains popping up everywhere. These are the things we need to be looking at and seeing it's already happening. We're reaching this tipping point. We don't want to give up now. We don't want to tire of the putting our intentions into actions and creating this new reality because it's already happening. So if you get, impatient, just look around and see what's already happened and use that to, put your second wind into it, if you will. And let's do this, you guys. I know we can do this. We've just got to keep on pushing. I think we're so close. And, even if it's, April 15th, as long as we don't hit April 1st and say, well, it was supposed to happen the first quarter. I'm just tired of waiting. I'm tired of, it's like a tug of war. We got to keep pulling. We're right on the brink of something huge happening. And like I said, we can see little indications of it. Think of all the records we're setting. We've setting snow records. We're setting just in the natural sense that are outside of the Mandela Effect changes. We're setting record temperature records. We're so many things are happening that's never happened before in recorded history. So look at those things. Whenever you start feeling down and you feel like nothing's happening, it's already been happening, and there's enough that's already happened for us to keep on pushing, you guys, and bring about this new world. I know we can do it, and I know it's just a matter of us staying focused and not letting the waiting to feel like we're just sitting back and waiting. Just keep loving, keep spreading the light, being there for one another, and keeping our own energies really high. We need to be changing up our diet, and I'm speaking to myself here, so this isn't me like, I need to get rid of meat and things like that people talk about, and so yeah, I need to drink more water. These are things that I need to do. I need to meditate more. I do meditate, but you can always meditate more. And when you feel yourself getting down, like I was saying yesterday, put on some music that makes you happy and dance around. Don't let it get bad because, like I said, it's tug of war. Like you're pulling on the rope, and when you let yourself get down, you're not doing your portion of the pulling. And these are yes, these are definitely exciting times, and we gotta keep that in our brain and not let the date thing get us down. Okay, because it's so often that people set a date and then you just give up, and this thing is going to happen, and the sooner, I think it'll happen sooner if we don't let dates get in the way of seeing it happen, because like I said, look around, it's happening. And I think the more we keep pulling at this, the more we just know it's coming, and the harder we pull, the quicker it's going to get here. We're going to manifest it, you guys, and I really feel that. I love all of you guys so much. I'm so glad. Think of this, just the chat room, all of these loving people that were brought together through this Mandela effect. It's just important to just, yeah, like one says, no dates. Forget about the dates. Know it's coming. Keep pushing, and I'll be here as long as I can, and like I said, you guys, I love you so much. I'm gonna end this broadcast as we're sort of, let's see, we're coming up on an hour here. So yeah, things are happening. Just look around. If you feel impatient, look around at what's happened so far. I look back at the last year and see how much I've grown, how much I've learned, and just this video here, how much I've grown and learned since this. And both of these two sources I just provided to you were out. Of course, the Dolores Cannon book was published in 2011, but I think that actual session it was closer to the beginning of 2000s when that particular session came out. It was a collection over decades, a decade or two, that she compiled this book. So even though it was published in 2011, this actual encounter we just heard was from before that time. So this all predates. So this isn't like somebody seeing what's happening and they're putting this information out to try to ride the phenomenon. This is stuff that they were talking about it before anything. I know a lot of people's been seeing ME changes for decades, but for most of us, it's a new thing, you guys. So, and then of course the law of one stuff, that was the early 80s. It was 81. They said it would be in about 30 years, which was 2011. So, this thing is happening, and the more we keep tugging at it and not letting stuff get us down and rising above all the politics and all the 3D stuff, all of that's going to fall away as soon as we let it fall away. And it gets back to that whole mirror thing, you know. The world around us is a reflection of what's inside of us, and if we want to change the world, we need to, you know, change our insides. We need to stop worrying about all this 3D stuff. We don't want to comb the mirror, you know what I mean? If we want to change what we see in the mirror, we need to comb ourselves, basically comb our own hair. And then it is an it is a wonderful, exciting adventure, and like I said, it's an exciting time to be alive. And a lot of people are here, I believe, because they signed up to be here during this exciting time. And don't be discouraged, you guys. It's happening. Lots of love and light to each and every one of you guys. And let's do this thing. And I'll see you in the next episode. Have a good one.